news this week comes from the biggest, fastest and newest car ferry on the English Channel. It's the first of a new generation of ferries, and it's helping to bring about a revolution in channel crossing. But first, this ship, because it's not just a price war which is being fought out in the Channel this year, there's something of a naval battle being waged between ships themselves. A new breed of Channel ferry is coming into service, and this is the first of them. One of her car decks alone holds as many vehicles as some of the ferries still operating on the Channel. And before the year is out, Townsend Thoresen will be bringing in 2 more identical ships with the same range of shops, restaurants and bars. The Herald of Free Enterprise comes into service early next month, and the Pride of Free Enterprise in about November. As well as Townsend's 3 new jumbo ferries, Sea Link hope to introduce brand new ships this year, the St Anselm and the St Christopher. They too are much bigger than the rather elderly vessels which make up Sea Link's cross-channel fleet at the moment. Besides being bigger, all these ships are faster. Sea Link ships will make 4 return crossings a day, Townsend's 5. This one, for instance, will do 22 knots, at least 3 knots faster than existing vessels, and crosses Dover to Calais in an hour and a quarter. She's done it, in fact, in 53 minutes, but ships, like cars, tend to gobble fuel if you drive them with your foot down too hard. This business of speed has brought with it some peculiar problems. There are few open deck areas, apparently because at full speed ahead it would be too uncomfortable to stroll about and take the air. The other problem is the shorter the journey, the less time there is to sell duty-free goods. And that's critical. That's why they've doubled the size of the duty-free shop. Duty-free is important because the ferry companies make a profit of something like £2.50 on every bottle of spirits they sell. The stockbrokers, Phillips and Drew, reckon that the total profit on duty-free on the Channel is worth more than £15 million a year. Almost a third of Townsend Thoresen's total profits from shipping are thought to come from duty-free sales. With Sea Link, it's probably even higher. But without the duty-free business, they say fares would have to go up by as much as 20%. As it is, fares this year have risen only slightly. In fact, some are actually less than they were 12 months ago. Now that is because of the price war. Here's Tony Bastable with a report from the front.
If you went into your friendly neighbourhood travel agent around about this time last year and asked him to book you, the wife and the Cortina on a cross-channel ferry for your holidays, the operation would have taken him about 5 minutes. Ask him the same question this year and the operation, according to the Association of British Travel Agents, is likely to take him up to half an hour. Nothing so graphically illustrates the remarkable changes that have happened over this, what was once called the narrowest and most expensive strip of water in the world. There hasn't been such activity on the Channel, it seems, since the Normandy landings. The story behind it is this. Earlier this year, Sea Link and Townsend Thoresen, the 2 principal UK operators, scrapped their common fares agreement. For 14 years, they'd been charging the same fares on common routes. But now they and all the other operators are operating in an open market. It's a free-for-all. One man who's been keeping a close eye on what's been going on, as he has about everything else that's gone on in the Channel for the last 40 years, is the AA's Manager of Shipping Services, Stan Petherbridge. Now, Stan, this great new free market hasn't just been reflected, has it, in terms of a price war? Because among the offers have been all kinds of deals on the length of cars you can take on board, isn't that right?
Yes. Not only have various offers been introduced, and indeed we have seen offer upon counter offer, but to make the situation that much more complicated, certain carriers have reduced the number of gradations, others have completely taken them away altogether. So the effect is that some rates and fares have in fact gone up, although there has been sizable decreases, certainly in the off-season.
Well, in fact, with your help, we actually prepared some figures on a run for a typical family with 2 children and a Cortina-sized car, and this is a cross-channel ferry crossing on the Dover-Calais route. Now, what we've done here is to do a return crossing at the standard season ferry rate. And what's interesting about this is that the Sea Link rate for this is £104.60. The Sea Speed rate, that's the hovercraft, is £130.60, and the Townsend Thoresen rate is £98. But the point is, Stan, surely, does that make Townsend Thoresen automatically the best buy on this route?
No, not necessarily, because it depends as in some cases the time of the day that you actually want to go, and also as to where you are going on the other side. For instance, we have taken as an example the Dordogne, which is an extremely popular area for British motorists. It's about 500 miles from the French Channel ports, and it is a fact that although entry at Boulogne or Calais is certainly much longer in mileage, that is on arrival at Boulogne or Calais to Bergerac, nevertheless it is in fact cheaper to go that way. The reason for that is that if you go on the longer routes, that is via Southampton Le Havre or Portsmouth St Malo, in fact you are paying considerably more for the sea voyage, although the entry port is that much nearer to your holiday area.
Well, again, using Stan's figures, we worked out the 4 most expensive and the 4 least expensive ways of going to Bergerac, which is straight in the middle of the Dordogne. And these prices that I'm going to quote to you now include all the road toll charges and the petrol for getting there from the port of disembarkation. And they're quite interesting reading. On the expensive end, we have the Brittany Ferries service, Portsmouth-St Malo, which would cost £113.68. Then we have Hoverloyd's Ramsgate-Calais service at £111.42. We have Sea Speed from Dover to Calais at £108.72. And finally, of our expensive selection, we have Townsend Thoresen Southampton Le Havre service at £106.06. And Stan, what's interesting about those figures is that the expensive end appears to be the end with the most sea miles in it, in fact with less travelling to do at the other end.
Exactly. Well, with the longer crossings by sea, obviously you are paying more for transportation. On the other hand, once you arrive at Le Havre or Cherbourg or St Malo, wherever it may be, your ultimate mileage to your destination is that much shorter. So the point that I made earlier must prevail, and that is that you've got to consider all the angles. That is the cost of the business of getting the vehicle across and your party, and also how much it's going to cost from the other side. Having in mind that petrol in France at the moment is around £1.65 a gallon, and probably is going to rise as a result of the recent fuel increases.
Well, of course, we can't let our viewers just have the expensive prices, so here are our 4 cheapest buys all the way to Bergerac, remember, including the petrol on the other end and the road tolls, and they work out like this. You could go Sea Link from Dover to Calais for £99.82 with your family and its Cortina. You could go Townsend Thoresen, Dover Calais for £96.42. You could go Sea Link from Dover to Boulogne at £95.04. But aren't we in a state here of overkill, Stan? We have more and more larger and expensive ships. We have crews, wages and other ancillary costs going up and up practically month by month, and yet the price for the car and the family is going down. Isn't this a sort of fool's paradise? Won't it all come back to us in the end in the form of a higher bill?
I believe it will. My own personal opinion is that so far as the future is concerned, and looking directly at 1981, I think what we will see is a continuation of the off-season, the off-peak offers, because one's got to remember that 85% of the total traffic actually crosses to and from the continent in the 4 summer months. And so the carriers obviously are anxious to ensure that their ships are filled and are prepared to offer off-peak rates. But so far as the major period of the time is concerned, then I believe that we will see increases in cost next year.
Stan Petherbridge, thank you very much indeed. And one final point to bear in mind. If, like me, you've ever turned up late and missed the boat, don't think that you can use your Sea Link ticket on the Townsend Thoresen ships or the other way round, because since the fare agreement went out of the window, so did that agreement too. So bear it in mind. And now I see that rather painlessly the coast of France is upon us. So in Calais, let's join Pam.
Not only are the new ships faster at sea, they're faster in port as well. Check-in time is down to 30 minutes and they can unload 2 car decks simultaneously down double-decker ramps. But new ships have meant new port facilities. 2 new berths are being built in Dover at a cost of £9 million, and in Calais they have also provided new berths, as well as this striking £18 million terminal building which has just opened. 9 times the size of the old sheds it's replacing, it's the biggest car ferry terminal on the mainland of Europe. Its plush passenger areas include a restaurant, cafeteria and bar. One of the most impressive things about it is that it's set in 40 acres of car park, 25 acres before customs and immigration control and 15 after for vehicles waiting to embark. But perhaps the most extraordinary fact about what's been happening on the channel this year is that ferry capacity has gone up by something like 50%. When all 3 Townsend Thoresen ships are in service, they'll be able to make as many as 30 crossings a day between Dover and Calais, carrying up to 40,000 passengers and 10,000 cars. Well, that's what they'll be able to do, but whether they'll actually be asked to do that is another thing altogether. Because after all, building big, fast new ships is one thing, but filling them is another.